This edition of Mac Notables is sponsored by Hover, my choice for domain name registration. Lots of people talk about quality domain name transfer and hosting, but Hover actually delivers on their promises. With smart, simple tools, truly outstanding customer service, and a no-wait phone support policy that really is just that. If you already own domains, if you are ready to purchase domains, and if you want a simple, no-nonsense, no high-pressure experience, then you need to check out Hover at hover.com. Welcome to Mac Notables. This is the home of the Mac experts you want to hear from, and I've got Jim Dalrymple back in the chair to talk to us. Jim, it's great to see you.
Good to see you again, Chuck. It's not been so long this time, so we're doing a lot better.
No. Hey, Jim, you know what? There's something wrong. Can you hold on just a second?
Sure.
Okay, hang on. There, that's better. I knew I forgot something.
Oh, that's great. Now we can both think.
I've always wanted to be a member of ZZ Top.
That's good.
And folks, for those of you that don't understand this is what you get when you show up early to a party given by Jim Dalrymple. It's a little something to make your personality like his.
Free beards. Yes, that was a good party.
It was a great party. And this was such a great gimmick. I loved it.
I looked around for fake beards probably for a month, maybe two. And I just couldn't find any that, were good. And I finally found these ones in Texas.
Really?
Yeah, I ordered 250 of them and had them sent to San Francisco and picked them up there.
Well,
it was great.
It was a ride, and of course, to see your wife and your daughter in the beards was even better. It's like, okay, I know exactly who you people are.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to see people wearing the beards in the party and having a beer, a beer with a beard, and just having a good time. Yeah, that's what it was all about. That's what it was meant to be, and people seem to enjoy themselves.
Oh, it was. Well, I have to tell you, it's not easy to eat or drink through here. You keep getting hair in your mouth. And I guess the last thing I want to point out is that one day I'm going to get Jim to show up with a tie, and this is what he'll look like. So
I'll do that. I'll wear a tie.
All right.
I have ties.
I want to see one. Not now, but sometime. I'm gonna get this off so the people that are seeing us don't get us confused. Because
that was great.
I brought that thing the whole way home from San Francisco. It's been sitting on my desk waiting for the first time we got a chance to talk.
I've seen people take them home and they put them on their kids and their wives and send me pictures, and it was. I guess it worked out the way that I wanted it to.
It definitely. Yeah. Well, Jim, I said ZZ Top, but one of the things we should mention about that party is finally we got to see some of your guitar chops, and I was pretty impressed.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I was wondering what I should do. I don't sing, so I thought, why don't I get up and play some guitar? And then, it always comes down to, I don't want to play any more than one song. So I thought, well, why don't I just pick out some of the best riffs in rock history and play those? So that's what I did. We did a medley of rock hits.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. ZZ Top was in there. Zeppelin was in there. I know I heard, obviously, some Ozzy and Metallica, I believe.
Ozzy and Metallica were in there. Aerosmith.
Yeah.
That was in there. AC/DC.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It really put the stamp on the party. That along with, of course, the beards.
Yes. Yeah, it was really good to get up there and just let it out, just play. I was having a good time, and and what's funny is that I told the band what I wanted to do. I sent them the songs that I wanted to do. We got to rehearse about an hour before the party started, and we ran through it twice, and that's it. That's all the practice that we had. And talking about these WWDC parties, as you know, a lot of them are cocktail parties. So you go and you talk to people about business, and I didn't want any of that. I didn't want any business. I wanted people to come and feel free to just enjoy themselves and drink. So when we were rehearsing, we had everything, cranked up pretty loud. And this is on the roof of the W. So we had everything cranked up pretty loud, and we were just running through it and having a good time. And all of a sudden, people started to show up. And they said that they could hear it down at Moscone, which is, a little ways away, that they could hear it. So, yeah, that was nice, too. So then we had to kick everybody out. Say, go.
Well, it turned out very, very well. It was definitely a highlight of WWDC for me. And I don't think I'm alone on that. So
it was for me.
Yeah. So would I be pushing if I ask if this is going to be an annual event?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I would like it to be. I'm undecided right now if it was one of those one-time things that was a lot of fun, but we'll just leave it at that, or if I should do it again next year.
Yeah. Well,
I'd like to do it again. I mean, there were 400 people there at the party altogether, and we had a check-in desk.
Right. So,
we knew how many people came through the door. So, yeah, 400 people. And a lot of people tried to sneak in and, tried to break the doors and stuff like that. And some of them, did such a good job, I let them in.
So there's a secret. If you're bad enough, if you really want it bad enough, Jim will capitulate and let you.
I figured, wow, you went through all this just to get into the party? Okay, come on.
Yeah.
So,
well, Jim, I guess since the last time we saw each other, and certainly the last time we talked here, a lot feels like it's changed in the tech world. And, I think WWDC, all the announcements have been made and discussed and analyzed to death. But a couple things have happened that I think are worth noting, and I'm anxious to get your reaction to them. The iPad really was the primary tablet when we last talked. Now we have two new competitors. We have the Surface from Microsoft, and that's about all we know about it, is its name. And then we have Google's Nexus. Do these represent any significant threat, Jim, or any significant alternatives, maybe, you think, to an iPad?
Sure. I mean, everything that's out there represents a threat or an alternative. I guess it's just a matter of scale. How big of a threat is the Surface or the Nexus? I guess that depends on what you want to do with it. I mean, I don't understand Microsoft's strategy with this, because they're talking about a device that you can install desktop software on. And use desktop software on a touch-enabled tablet, and that doesn't make sense to me. A tablet, if it's touch-enabled tablet, should have optimized apps, and it just doesn't seem like it has those. Well, it certainly doesn't have them yet. Now, there are two versions of the Surface. One is going to be based on ARM, and one the ARM architecture, and that will have touch-enabled apps. At some point, they don't have any yet. And while that one may be a bigger competitor long-term to the iPad, the confusion over the other model of the tablet, which has the Intel architecture and can run desktop apps, it just seems awfully confusing to me. So I'm not sure how it'll do. I mean, I do give Microsoft credit for not just blindly following Apple's lead like everybody else did. But I think that they needlessly confuse the issue of a tablet. I mean, Apple made a cut between their computers and their tablets. So if you want to do desktop things, you do it with a MacBook Air and up. If you want to do a tablet, then you use your finger and you do some stuff over here. Now, that's not to say that people don't use what are those things? Stylus. Yeah, it's not to say that they don't use a stylus. You can use a stylus on an iPad, and a lot of people do, and a lot of people have very good reasons for doing so. Artists, for instance, you draw and you do all kinds of things. There are all kinds of examples of the way that people would use a stylus, but Microsoft includes a stylus in with the Surface, and to me, when a company includes an accessory with a product, they're telling you that this is an integral part of the product and how it works. And in order to make that product work the way that we want it to work, you need to use this. And I don't get that. I don't get that. A friend a couple of weeks ago emailed me and said, I think Apple should make the iPhone waterproof because, filmmakers use it and people use it, and they should be waterproof, and it should have a couple of other things that are really accessories. You can make your iPhone waterproof with the proper case, and I said, you know what, you could be right, but it's right for your group. Apple will focus on the core design and the core working of the product. And after that, it's up to third parties to come up with products that will make it waterproof and make it do other things. But Apple's not going to do that. They're not going to make this big, bulky thing. That's just not them. And that's kind of what Microsoft seems to have done. They made this, clunky thing to kind of distract you from the fact that their actual touch-enabled tablet doesn't have any apps. So,
there are a couple things here that have happened since we talked that, for me, all sort of coalesced and cross-reference each other. One of which is the Vanity Fair article about Microsoft and why it has the problems it's had over the past 10 years. And how it relates to this is the discussion of some innovations that Microsoft, some products, scratch innovations, some products Microsoft was working on. And because those products didn't fit in with the great God Windows vision of the world, they were scrapped or rejected or bastardized beyond recognition so that they weren't useful. And I looked at this tablet and I thought, really? I mean, after all this time, you're still just fighting to do the desktop thing?
Yeah. Well, and if you look at the tablet market and look over the past decade, Microsoft was in the tablet market long before Apple. I mean, they had tablets with their partners. They had tablet OSs with their partners. But the problem that I see with the strategy that they had there was that people didn't buy into a desktop on a handheld device. They just didn't buy into it. And, you had your stylus, and it was big and ugly tablet they had. So they come out with a thin tablet with the Surface. We don't know how much it'll be or any specs or anything like that, but they have this thin tablet. But then again, they try and bring the desktop onto this tablet instead of breaking and saying, okay, no desktop on the tablet. They tried to make the desktop more like the tablet and then bring that over. And people have already said no to that. I mean, for a decade, they've said no to that. So Apple didn't invent the tablet, but they made the tablet modern, and they made it fit in with our lifestyle. You can take an iPad and put it in a bag and just carry it with you, or put a smart cover on it and just carry it like that with you, and have access to the internet anywhere you go. And you can do fun things on it, you can work on it, you can do all this stuff, and it kind of fits in with what we expect as a fast-moving society right now. To take out a Surface and hook up your keyboard and hook up your if you get a mouse, I don't know, do you get a mouse with it? Maybe you do. To take all of this stuff, it's just like carrying around a laptop with you. And it would be probably more productive to carry a laptop with you.
Took the words right out of my mouth, yep.
So in that way, I just don't understand. And, I don't like not understanding because I think I'm a decently smart fellow. I should be able to understand this stuff, but I can't get this one. I can't.
Well, the fact that none of us understand it completely is, is a condemnation, unfortunately, of the announcement. There are way too many questions that went unanswered, and a lot of those questions are just basic. It's like, well, we sort of have this vision for it, and this is what it will do, but what about apps, and what about, a dozen different things, and, you didn't get it. And then you have Ballmer coming out either yesterday or today, I've forgotten when, and saying, basically to Apple, oh, the game is on again. Well, what game?
Game's always been on.
Yeah.
He just didn't show up.
Yeah. What exactly is it that you're going to do differently? We have Windows 8 that now has been announced, if I remember correctly, for late October.
Yeah.
Yet all indications are we will have Mountain Lion long before that. It just, I don't know. I just feel like, once again, Microsoft is playing games that, in their own little world, they think they're competitive, and this is not us, or no, scratch it, I won't speak for you. This is not me bashing Microsoft. It's just, now I almost feel sorry for them. I shake my head and say, where are you guys?
I have a lot of respect for Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is a genius, the way that he made Microsoft, one of the bigger companies in the world. But over the last 10 years, there has just been no innovation. And that's a problem for any company. And do you know who the last company was to come out with a tablet that would supposedly kill the iPad, but not allow people to touch it? RIM.
I knew we'd get to RIM sooner or later.
Yes, RIM did that. It's kind of funny that Microsoft did this when they did. I don't know. There's a lot of things about that whole announcement, the timing, that I don't understand, and just why they felt bringing the desktop over was a better thing. But apparently they did, and I wish I knew why. It'd be nice to. I mean, Ballmer obviously is just talking all kinds of craziness these days, with the fact that he's not going to leave any stone unturned and nothing is going to be left to Apple. And and the best line, the one that I linked to today, not on my watch. It's already happened on your watch, Steve.
Your watch needs to be over pretty soon, Steve. And
wow.
No, I know it really is. It really is amazing. Because the Vanity Fair article, just lists item after item where Microsoft has dropped the ball, has lost. I mean, the Zune was going to be the iPod killer. Well, right. We saw how well that worked out.
Well, and they even had mock funerals for the iPad and the iPhone.
I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard speculation that, and you have too, and have read it online, that this is one of those Microsoft things that, nobody gets fired for buying Microsoft. So because Microsoft has announced a tablet, industry is going to stop purchasing iPads and wait and see what Microsoft comes out with. And I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I think the world is moving too fast today, and I can't imagine anybody who has a serious need for a tablet wait until October to see what comes of it.
Well, there will be some people that will want to buy a Microsoft tablet for whatever reason. I mean, some people have said, I see them on Twitter, and said, yes, I'll buy a Surface when it comes out because I like not to be productive. I don't know. I don't know. What's their tablet version of the blue screen of death going to be? That'd be nice to know. See, there's another question that they haven't answered.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen when it finally comes out, if they're going to sell a gazillion of them just because they're Microsoft. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, but Jim, couldn't you have said the same thing about the Zune? I mean, there were people that said,
true.
I will buy it because it's Microsoft. And I think honest to God, I think I've seen one Zune in the wild.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. And so, Windows Phone 8 Windows Phone 8 seems to be getting a pretty decent reception. Yeah. And, and that, maybe that's good. Maybe they'll learn some lessons from that they can port over. But certainly, and this may, we may not be being fair because we only have the announcement to go by, not a product. But boy, by the announcement, it sure didn't sound like they'd learned any lessons, and they were just trying to drop Windows into a tablet format and then suggested maybe you get a keyboard and, like you said, perhaps a mouse to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I just, that's what you need, all those facts in order to understand where they're going with it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Ballmer came down and said it has to run Windows desktop in order for us to sell it. That's the only way to do it.
So we beat on Microsoft here a little bit. Let's talk about Google and their announcements and notably their Nexus tablet. This looks like a better option of some kind but it doesn't seem to be for creation. It seems this truly seems to be a consumption device.
I don't. I mean, Google's I understand a lot more. I don't have one. I haven't used one, so I looked at the reviews, and a lot of the reviews were positive. One of the reviews that I linked to last night said that it wasn't the game changer that they'd hoped it would be. It was good. They liked it, but not a game changer. And I think that maybe that's what people were hoping for from Google, that here is something that will change the way you think about tablets. And they didn't get that. They kind of got, an iPad competitor. So, I think that Google certainly has the wherewithal to put out something that could be a close competitor or the closest competitor to what's out there. But they just don't seem to be able to pull it off. So, we'll see how the Nexus sells too. The Nexus may sell better than the Surface. But at this point, the way that it looks to me is that the Surface is going to come and run a separate operating system, and it will, I think, be popular with a lot of people that know Windows. They understand that, and okay, I don't know if they'll understand how Microsoft implemented it on a tablet, but they'll go for that. Then you're going to have the Google Nexus in with all the other tablets, and then the iPad separate from that. We won't even mention RIM because they're not in the game at all.
Yeah.
So it looks kind of like a battle for second in there between Android devices and Microsoft, with the iPad leading. And I mean, the iPad leading is just fact. It's selling millions and millions of devices a quarter. So we're saying that it's leading based on sales numbers. And then everything seems to come down to second place. So the big question is, when people buy a Surface, would they have purchased an Android tablet or an iPad? So whose sales are going to drop? I'm betting that a lot of those people would have chosen to purchase an Android tablet. So it will be those companies, Samsung, Google, that will end up losing some sales. I'm sure Apple will too, but I don't think percentage-wise as much as what those companies will. And those people will go to the Surface. So the battle for second will heat up, and Apple will continue to lead.
I find it interesting. I haven't heard you mention the Fire.
Ah, yes. Well, I don't put the Kindle Fire in there. I don't think the Kindle Fire is a tablet like other tablets. I think people buy the Fire for the brand. They buy an Amazon tablet because they want to read books. And I think that's why they buy it. Oh, I can do a few more things if I buy the Kindle Fire as opposed to this Kindle. Okay, well, I'll buy that one. I don't think that they buy a tablet because they want to work, or they want to do, drawing or painting or games or anything like that. I think that first and foremost, they buy it as an e-reader.
I don't know. I mean, the Kindle Fire seems to be a bit more capable, than a regular Kindle, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it's not that you don't have the option of creating much of anything on a Kindle Fire. The Nexus, yeah, that looks like a potential creation device. It's going to depend on what the app developers do to get behind it. Microsoft clearly is targeting the Surface as a productivity device, and of course, you know, it allegedly runs the holy grail of Microsoft Office, which, you know, I have to wonder, is that still the holy grail that it has been?
I don't think so. You know, not like it was. I mean, there was a time when you may want your tablet or your computer to run Microsoft Office, but now the want has kind of gone. You know, it's not there anymore because you can do other things. Now, when you get into a corporate environment, maybe that's still a big need. From what I can understand, it's not as big as what it once was. So, you know, but then with this environmental thing today, you know, Apple, they're not, like San Francisco government can't purchase Apple computers anymore. So that's kind of a pain. I don't know why they did that, but you would think, to me, if you're any kind of a business, you would want to buy the best products, and if eco-friendly is part of your requirement, just look on Apple's website, and they're leading the industry in being eco-friendly. So
that was another topic I had on the list to talk to you about. That seems not reckless of Apple, just sort of surprising. And I don't know enough about this particular certification as to whether it's one of those things that is, you know, so far into the green space as to be borderline unreasonable, and to comply with it would have hampered some of the continued development of products, or whether it's a more middle-of-the-road kind of thing that is easily complied with.
Well, my understanding of this from the article in the Wall Street Journal was that the one part that Apple fell down on was allowing people to easily take the computer apart to separate toxic things from, you know, non-toxic materials. So like the battery. And Apple wouldn't comply with that, because Apple makes their own batteries now. So, you know, before it was easy, you just pop the battery off the back, and there's that part of it gone. But Apple wouldn't comply with that part, is my understanding. And, you know, if it's going to, something like this is going to hurt Apple's future development, and then I can understand why they would make the move that they do. Keep in mind that Apple will take back all of its computers and recycle them for you. So people do have another option. So yeah, I wish the city of San Francisco shouldn't make, or any government agency shouldn't make decisions based on a piece of paper. They should make decisions based on what's actually happening out there. And I challenged one fellow today to show me a company that's doing more for the environment than Apple. And he said, well, anybody that's still certified. And I said, really? Show me the reports, their environmental reports. I can show you Apple's. You show me theirs. And, of course, he couldn't, because no other company makes them available like Apple does. So I think that has to factor into how you purchase things. But, you know.
But you brought up something that I have yet to see anybody else mention, and that is that Apple will take back the computer and recycle it responsibly.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if the battery dies, I have not seen anything that said that I can't take it back to Apple and get a new battery put in it. It's just that I can't go to our friends over Otherworld Computing or MacFixit or whatever and do it myself.
Right.
You know, so I still have the options. Apple, maybe you could argue Apple's becoming a bit more restrictive. Or if you really wanted to spin it, you could say Apple wants to make sure that the recycling gets done right, so they're encouraging you to come back to them. Now that's real spin, and you and I both know it. But you know, it really boggles my mind that just because they've missed on one certification, that there's this huge knee-jerk reaction, and we're both probably going to get emails for these comments. And you know, I don't mind. I mean, I see it as a middle of the road issue where you have to give people some kind of option, Because
Yep.
you and I both know there's still plenty of people that throw batteries in the trash can and throw them into the dumpster, and then they go to a landfill, whether it's a MacBook Pro battery or whether it's a double A.
Yep. Yep, it's true. And I don't know what, I mean, Apple actually asked to be removed from the list. It's not that, you know, the organization decertified them or anything. Apple just flat out said, take us off.
Yeah.
So, you know, clearly some of the products that they have in the pipeline are more important to them as a company than this certification.
Which makes you wonder what's coming next.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe it's just a giant battery with nothing attached.
Yeah, I don't know. It just we've said this before. Apple now sits at the top of the heap, and that means every single little thing they do is subject to examination and analysis and criticism by every special interest group out there you can find. And
Yeah.
you know, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, maybe I'm overlooking some things, but I'm just not so sure.
Well, again, I would like to know what companies do more than Apple. You know, who has done more in China than Apple?
Yeah.
You know, if somebody can explain those types of things to me and explain why it would be better for the city to buy, as of San Francisco, to buy Dells or HPs or whatever than it is to buy Macs because of this piece of paper, then I'd be willing to listen to that. But I don't think that anybody can because of their track record in the environment.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that Greenpeace was protesting outside of Macworld keynotes and, you know,
Yeah.
raising all kinds of cane. And then all of a sudden Apple became the darling, and now they've taken a step back. I don't know. Maybe it's just part of the cycle.
I don't know. But if you attack Apple, you get headlines, you know. So, and people continue to do that. You know, not that Apple doesn't do anything wrong. They do. But it's hard to attack them for things that they're doing right. You know, to bring attention to the fact that other companies aren't doing it. That just doesn't make any sense. Attack the other companies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap, Jim, there's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and that is that it has come to my attention that this is not the only podcast you do now.
It's not.
That you have your very own show.
I do. You know, after 20 years.
I had to find this out by accident. You didn't tell me. Tell us all about it.
Well, it's a podcast on Dan Benjamin's 5x5 network. He asked me to fill in twice for John Gruber on the talk show. So I said, sure, I'll fill in. You know, he said, well, it'll be an hour or two. And I said, that's fine. You know, it's just an hour or two that I talk to you instead of talking to myself. So that's good. I'm going to be talking anyway. And after we did those couple of shows, he thought they were good, and our listeners thought they were good. So he said, let's do a show with you. So we did one called Amplified. And the first part of the show is all about, you know, Apple and what's going on. And the second part is about guitars and amps and music. So, you know, readers write in and ask questions, and I do my best to answer them. And they're good questions. You know, people have a solid interest in being able to, you know, combine the technology and the guitars. And some of it is just, you know, purely without the computer at all, some of the guitar talk. You know, we talk about instruments and the way that I set them up to do the sounds that I like and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I've had a good time.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, just tell Dan that, you know, I mean, he may have gotten you on a show, but I doubt he's going to put the beard on for you. So.
You win. You win.
Jim, it's always fun. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. And we'll all be listening to Amplified until you get back here the next time on Mac Notables.
Thanks very much, Chuck.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner, and that is Jim Dalrymple, the mastermind of The Loop at loopinsight.com. And again, his new podcast on the 5x5 network is Amplified, and I will have links in the show notes to both so you can find out what all Jim is up to. Until the next time, Mac Notables is the home of the Mac experts you want to hear from. I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Mac Voices TV is part of the Mac Voices Group at MacVoicesGroup.com. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.